research shows that the most successful entrepreneurs are those who have most in touch with their intuition. So I help people bring that out, draw that out of them.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello everybody, it's Neil Ball. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Swami Tirtha. Tom Felton said, going online and asking questions is the best way to learn. The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Swami, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
I am, Neil. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Swami Tirtha established a wellness brick-and-mortar business back in 1990, which is now an online business. He's written 3 books, the first of which was an Amazon #1 bestseller, and he has also spoken to the White House Wellness Commission on wellness. Swami, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Well, sure, Neil. I'd be happy to. I have been a proponent, a believer in life that what you sell, what you share, whether it's a product or service, it's something you believe in, something that works for you, or for me, I should say. That's my, if I don't love something, how can I share it? If it doesn't work for me, how can I share it with others? Because my mission is to help other people in whatever way that comes across. And I started out as, I'd say, the pre-entrepreneurs back in the 70s. I went to college for radio, television, and film, and I really was loving it. And then life came along and made a change for me. My parents were in a car accident, and they died. And that instantly, obviously, changed my life. And the thing is, when I went back to college, I never bounced back. I couldn't. I lost my love of TV and film and radio. And the only thing on my mind was, how do I deal with this situation? And after looking into a number of trying different things, that nothing was working. One day on campus, Neil, there was a sign for a free lecture on meditation. And now everybody knows meditation and yoga, but in 1972, 73, 74, it was brand new. We heard the Beatles went to India and they studied something called meditation, but that was really the extent of it back then. But I was desperate and I had to try something. And I tried the meditation, and in an instant, I got a reconnection to my heart. And one way I describe that, Neil, to help other people understand it is, let's say you're standing outside and it's raining and you're getting wet, and then you go stand on the porch of your house with an overhang. Now, we didn't change the weather, but we changed the conditions so that we're not getting wet anymore. And so that's kind of what happened to me. I couldn't change, obviously, the loss of my parents, but by going inside of myself through the meditation, I was able to have a little peace of mind, a little space, and a way to start to deal with life. And that was so profound, Neil, for me, that I said, you know what, I want to help other people deal with their stresses. If I can deal with this huge tragedy, I can certainly help others with meditation, with their stresses. And so that's when I started on my entrepreneurial path before we ever talked about entrepreneurs. And I started teaching meditation and yoga. And years later, I added the wellness component. And more recently, the energy component, the energy healing. So that's kind of in a nutshell my way of what works for me, I can help other people.
So how do you make money from what you do now?
Through consultations, through lectures. I'll talk to businesses, to entrepreneurs. I'll talk to colleges and help the college students with their stress. Mm-hmm. My latest book is called The Stress-Free College Student. Yeah. And then, of course, through my books, I make a little bit of money, but mainly through consultations and courses, training. I teach a medical intuition course, a financial intuition course. Research shows that the most successful entrepreneurs are those who have most in touch with their intuition. Mm. So I help people bring that out, draw that out of them.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that?
How do I do that? Well, I have a little magic wand, and my courses are mostly online, and I have a number of tools. The first thing is, it's really a 3-step process. First is you have to get the stress out, the blocks, the doubts, the self-limiting beliefs. And that's really the root cause of all the reasons we struggle with physical or emotional issues. And that I do that instantly within 60 seconds, or say even in a 15-minute to half an hour consultation. Once the stress is cleared out, our mind is clear, our brain is clear, we can see our vision. What do you love to do? And then the third step is create action steps for my client to achieve their entrepreneurial goals. Mm. And the intuition, you can hear the intuition when the noise of the stress is gone.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like personal development, really, doesn't it?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's very similar. It's sort of linked, it's sort of tied around that or linked to that in some ways.
After a while, the deeper you get into this, everything is related. Your lifestyle, how you eat, your social, your life, your family life. It all has to have some balance, some dynamic equilibrium, I should say, because it's never 100% balanced. But if all you're doing is working 80 hours a week, your family life is suffering, you're not eating healthy, your health is suffering, it's not a good long-term habit for your business. You know, it's kind of like quarter by quarter, the companies that have stocks, they just try to make a profit for the next quarter, and they're hurting themselves long term. So it's the same thing in human life. You got to think for the long term for success.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what do you enjoy most about what you do?
Oh, seeing people just transform, seeing their faces soften, seeing their eyes pop open and go, holy cow. I was just working with a college professor the other day, and I say things take 60 seconds to change. I'd say literally within the first 10 seconds as we were going through an exercise, he goes, oh my goodness, the stress really did go away. And that's so rewarding to see people help right in front of your eyes.
That's pretty impressive. And what is it that drives you, Swami?
Well, Swami is a monk, and a monk is somebody who wants to help the world. So what drives me is I really want to see stress-free people. I want to see stress-free entrepreneurs. I want to see stress-free college students who are the entrepreneurs of the future. Ultimately, I want to see a stress-free world and world peace, but you got to start somewhere. Mm-hmm. So seeing people happier, healthier, more in joy, more successful, that's what drives me.
Yes, a great cause. And how do you relax when you're not working in your business? I mean, it sounds like you will already be relaxed, but maybe you go to an even more relaxed state. Right.
When I'm not helping people, then I am meditating, I'm doing yoga, taking walks outside. I also have to catch myself and not overwork because I love the work so much. I have to say, okay, get outside now. Do something else you love to do. Cross training.
I suppose there'd be a bit of irony if you were stressed in doing what you were doing, wouldn't there? Really, because
you laugh, but I've had clients like that. I had a doctor come in and he says, "I'm so stressed out." I go, "What do you do?" He says, "I teach stress management." I said, "Oh goodness, so let's sit down and have a talk."
Do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Well, so I will adapt a quote I heard from a monk once. He said, if you're sincere enough, everyone is your role model. everybody has something that they can inspire you to do. I'll read biographies of entrepreneurs or people like Walt Disney, or you read some of the stories in Think and Grow Rich about how these people struggled and faced their fears and how they succeeded and what they went through. So anybody who has a story that inspires me becomes a role model for me. Mm-hmm. I don't have a set role model as an entrepreneur because I'm coming more from the spiritual field. Mm-hmm. So my role model is my spiritual teacher. Mm-hmm. And by following my inner path, the outer entrepreneurial world unfolds for me. Mm-hmm. So I have friends who are entrepreneurs. I'm in a mastermind group, and but anybody and everybody can. I try to learn from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, but if you take someone like Walt Disney, he had a particularly amazing journey, didn't he? And he's certainly very inspirational. So there must be some people that inspire you more than others.
The people who started with not only nothing, but being attacked, mm-hmm. on the defensive since day one, that just totally, I don't have any excuses when I read stories like that.
Mm-hmm. And which stories like that come to mind when you think about it?
I think Walt Disney, his father used to beat him just for no reason. So not only did he come from nothing, but he was getting beat as a child. Mm. My childhood was much better than that. And then, of course, I lost my parents, but I wasn't an attack on my life. I just had low self-esteem of what I could do or couldn't do. So when you hear somebody who came from less than me and then also overcame beatings, it's like, I don't have a leg to stand. I don't have a single excuse here to why I can't achieve.
Yeah. And can we now talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Oh, Neil, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. I was sitting one summer in a hammock in the backyard relaxing, and all of a sudden I had this image of a bottle of herbs in my head. And I studied and taught this wellness program from India called Ayurveda. And so I saw this bottle of Ayurvedic herbs, and the thought came to me, start an Ayurvedic herbal company. And this was this was 1988, 87. 87, 88, 89, somewhere in there. And there was really no Ayurveda in the country. And now you can find Ayurveda shops in London, in the United States, in New York, everywhere. And so I just bolted out of the hammock. I got a pencil and paper. And this shows you how I have no business experience. So this will prove it to you. So when I did the math, I said, wow, I could actually break even in this business. And I was happy. I could have a company that helps people selling these herbs, and I could break even. What a dream. and that's how it started. I started giving consultations in New York City and selling my herbal products. And just with a little bit of advice from my accountant on how to price things, I just sort of felt my way through. And I opened my shop. I had a little money from my parents and no business experience. And it took me 5 years in the red before I started to turn a profit. And I had a client who was in business, and she said to me, oh, people have to stay in business 3 years before they turn a profit. So I did that. And then she came and visited me about 3 years later, and she was, no, 5 years. So I stuck it out for 5 years, and in the fifth year, I turned things around. I don't know how. I think it just happened. And one of the things that happened was every once in a while I would just not have any more money. It was the 11th hour. I had no money to pay the rent. I didn't know what to do. I had no training other than being a monk, and you can't, have a business being a monk. And in the 11th hour, my accountant would call. He says, oh, I found this money here of yours. And that happened 3 or 4 times. And I started to learn a lesson in life is do what you love to do, and you will be guided even when you're not sure of your next step, even when it looks like life is dire. So that's really how I started to learn, I would say, like the higher principles, not necessarily business, but certainly they apply to business. Have faith in what you do. Those were my biggest challenges up front.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
I was, at the time, I was freelancing doing television work for working sports events. And I was building my herbal business on the side. And so I was building one bridge as I was feeding myself. And then I got a call one day to go and do some sports event. And I said, I'm kind of busy with my other business. I'm making enough money now that I really need to focus on this. So I sort of took what I'd call a practical approach to building a bridge to my new entrepreneurial business.
Mm-hmm. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey, apart from deciding you didn't want to make a profit?
Well, I think everything. I just learned by the seat of my pants. I think,
okay.
I don't know. Everything that was a mistake I learned from and either benefited from or it wasn't a mistake and I thought it was a mistake. I would there were people who would offer me $1 million to do stuff if I made them second in command and they had no experience. And I said, I couldn't do that. That wouldn't be right for my clients. And, other people said, I'll give you $1 million, but you have to do whatever I say. And so, were those mistakes? Well, I could have had lots of money, but I mean, being an entrepreneur, one of the best things is you call the shots. You're free to live the life you want to live. So ultimately, any mistakes paled in comparison to that. I asked questions when I needed help. Oftentimes, the people who bottled my herbs, they would help me understand something, or they would help me finance the payments. So other people in business would help me. It's kind of like this mystical principle that what you need shows up when you need it, and just keep going. And certainly there were fears and there was doubts when the money wasn't there. But I had no other. I didn't. It was kind of like I unconsciously burnt all the boats at the shore, so there was no retreat. So I figured I'd just keep going until I couldn't keep going anymore, or I'd succeed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken that first step on the entrepreneur way?
Wow. I think the first thing, the most profound, I think the thing that helps you when nothing else will help you is do something you absolutely love and to the point where you would pay to do it. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
Because life is always going to get hard. And if you do what there's a quote that says, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so when life gets hard, the game just gets more challenging. If you're doing something because your father told you to do it, or you think it would make you look cool, or help you with help you with the ladies or something, it's going to be or you make a lot of money just for money's sake and nothing else. It's the quickest way to jump out of business. Mm-hmm. So I'd say that's the most important lesson I could share with anybody. Okay.
And can we just talk now about the actual journey of sort of setting up your business or running your business? Mm-hmm. Do you think that culture is important from the beginning in a business?
I think yes. I think more so now than ever. I think community is that's the new foundation, to have community. There's so many companies. I was just listening to a story about Wikipedia. They paid their programmer, and everybody else was a volunteer. So I think more so now than ever. For me, my culture was my background, the meditation people, the yoga people, and those were my first clients because they could understand it was right in line of our community, of our culture. So I think, and then there's another saying that if you want to start a business, start from the people you know. Mm-hmm. Don't just go out there and cold call right off the bat, because it's so much easier. You'll be surprised how much help you can get right from your own community or your own culture.
You said that you think it's more so now than in the past. Why do you think that?
That's a good question, Neil. I think perhaps the internet has created community.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first got on the internet, I wanted to look up some research on herbs in India, and I just clicked the button, and I was on AOL, and you heard that high-pitched sound. And I got thousands of research articles from India downloaded to my computer in like a few minutes. Mm-hmm. And I wrote some articles. Somebody put me on their website. I wrote some articles on Ayurvedic wellness. And all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from people around the world, or emails. And compared to that, I've never had, if I ever advertised, paper advertising, magazine advertising, at best I would break even and almost never get response. And all of a sudden, all around the world, people are connecting with me. So I think that the internet really helps niche markets. You don't have to conquer the world, just find the people who are looking for you.
Mm. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, if you leave the computers out of it, because we didn't really have computers back then.
Mm-hmm.
We had basic computers. There was certainly no internet. What do I know now? I think really to have the courage to follow my intuition more. If I had a gut instinct to work with somebody or not to work with somebody, it took me a while to honor that. And, so if somebody was on the phone and very bossy and I said, well, I need the money, I'll take this as a client, it became very quickly not worthwhile. And subsequently, there are people who you just connect with right away, and I might have jumped in quicker, said, let's do something together. Mm-hmm. So I think listening to who I was, that's the other component, Neil. I think authenticity is a really key component. Everybody's unique in their own way. And there's a saying, be yourself, everybody else is already taken. And it's so great. I'm not trying to be like every other yoga teacher or every other herbalist or every other monk. I have certain gifts. I have certain joy that's expressed my own spontaneous way. And the more I honor that, the more people connect to me. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I would tell my younger self.
Okay. And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in business? I think you've already alluded to this a bit. Major.
Certainly I have to do the research and understand the facts of things, where the trends are, what people want, what don't want, where to find things. But if I'm running something down, there, like it says, just keep on calling. If my gut says, you know what, just chill out and wait, do something else with your life. That's one of the biggest things I've been told intuitively is just don't go running after people. Don't go running after the sun. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you develop yourself, and it's like when the tide comes in, the people come to me. When the tide goes out, develop myself, my own self-development, develop courses and things like that.
It's a good philosophy.
Yeah.
Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And many people say the only constant is change.
Yeah.
Swami, how do you keep up with change?
Well, boy, I think the internet is a great place for that. Mm-hmm. I read some business magazines. I read articles on the internet. I have a mastermind group. I chat with local people. I look at. I'm very big into technology. There's now. I have a technology to measure your pulse and tell you about your heart and your health and recommend foods and herbs for you. There's neuroscience, cutting edge brain technology that's debunking all the myths that we've had as a culture that used to say that our brain stops growing and starts dying at age 18, and now they say there's no stop to it. If you study music, you'll grow your brain. If you study languages, so I like to look at the cutting edge trends I like to look at the new inventions because they're talking about hover cars, automated, the Google self-driving car. Now they're showing a self-driving hover car. So I like to look at the future, the trends, and where we're headed, and move in those directions.
Mm-hmm. You talked about did you say you run a mastermind?
Oh, my friend Dean, who you've interviewed, mm-hmm. we have our own mastermind group, and we've been meeting for quite a few years. Mm-hmm. And every so often, other people come into it. And I do run a mastermind for my students. I run a Facebook group.
And what do you think the benefits of a mastermind are?
Oh, so much. First off, it's culture, it's mm-hmm. community. Secondly, our masterminds are based in you never put anybody down, mm-hmm. and sharing ideas. Somebody says, "Well, I tried this intuitive healing tool that you suggested, and this is what happened with my client." Well, that inspires everybody in the group to say, "Wow, it's really working for them. Let me go do some more of that," and just bouncing ideas off one another. Our mastermind groups, my mastermind groups, I run a little bit differently than just idea sharing. We actually take it out to action steps. Well, what are you going to do now, based on this? Mm-hmm. So we really help everybody get into action instead of just walk home with an idea. Yeah. We walk home with ideas of action steps to succeed in those ideas.
Yeah. So you create accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
I think I'd have to, I narrowed it down to 3, and I can bring it down to 2 for you. Think and Grow Rich, I'll put in the 3rd spot. It's a common book. I love a lot of that, although it in and of itself didn't directly influence me as much as number 2 book is The Myth of the Robber Barons, and it's by Forrest McDonald. And in that book, he talks about the early entrepreneurs, which we derogatorily call wrongly, I think, the carpetbaggers, mm-hmm. Andrew Carnegie, Vanderbilt. These are people who started from nothing, who had dreams, who used. I mean, we were taught in school that these were not nice people and all. But when you read their biographies, they used the best equipment. They paid for the best equipment. They paid the best people the best salaries. Mm. And they brought to people, for example, Vanderbilt created or got involved in the steamships, the ferries in the New York State area. Mm-hmm. And to break the monopoly that was there, that unsafe steamship travel for people, and very expensive. And he came out and he bought the safest equipment. He hired the best people, engineers. He brought the price down to the point where the passenger fare was free, and there was food on the ship if you wanted to buy it. People like Rockefeller, who brought to the population electricity. Mm-hmm. Other than before that, only the wealthy people had whale oil to light their houses. So it really broke a lot of myths for me about the so-called dirty businesses. It's just such a myth. Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly there are those people, but that book really opened my eyes. And the number 1 book for me is Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbinger Institute. And basically there's 2 ideas in there: that we're responsible for our life, and if we blame anybody, it's only because we got lazy and didn't feel like doing something for ourselves. And the example he uses is he's lying in bed, his wife just had a baby, and every night the baby wakes her up and she goes to tend the baby, but this night she's just dead exhausted. She doesn't even hear the baby. And he says, I should get up and do that. And then in the next instance, he decides he doesn't want to do that. And then he starts blaming his wife. Well, she's lazy. And he says the idea is take responsibility, step up and do the right thing. And if you start blaming, you'll find really, if you're honest with yourself, you're not stepping up. Mm-hmm. And the other principle in that book is we get in our own way. And he gives the wonderful story of how there was once a doctor's strike in Israel in a hospital. And when the doctors were out on strike, the death rate actually dropped in the hospital. And when the strike was over and the doctors went back to the hospital to work, the death rate went back up to where it was before. And, if I'm honest with myself, I see where I get in my own way. Entrepreneurs, we're our own worst enemy. Everybody's their own worst enemy. And if this book really sort of gently brought me up to be self-responsible and self-aware. And I think that's why I give that the number 1 rating.
Okay, thank you for that. Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you haven't already signed up, then you will qualify. Sammy, can we now talk a little bit about the future and speculate about a few things? What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
Wow, if I knew I could not fail. I would probably bring out some of the ideas that are kind of crazy that people probably would laugh at right now. Mm-hmm. I think, to be very honest, and I'm actually working on that. I'm tinkering with the idea. Well, I'm more than tinkering with it. I'm actually started telling people that I am developing a course, Introduction to Levitation. Mm-hmm. That's how crazy that is.
Okay.
So I finally said, just recently, it's funny you asked me that question, because that's really, I said, what if I couldn't fail? And this is the course that's coming to me. This is what my intuition is telling me. I used to do this years ago. I took a levitation course and we sort of hopped around and it was quite exhilarating. But the actual levitating and floating at will where we want, that hasn't happened yet. And I'm not claiming that I can do that right now, Neil.
I was wondering.
By any stretch of the imagination. That's why I'm calling it Introduction to. It's sort of like we need to exercise to get into shape. And it's such a wonderful, exhilarating feeling. Mm-hmm. And but even right now, this is the first time I'm really publicly even talking about it. I don't really care if people laugh at it anymore. The craziest people in the world get laughed at, and so I'm in good company. Mm. And in fact, if people call me crazy, I say, well, I'll just put that crazy badge right on my chest with the rest of the ones that people give me. That's how I know I'm moving forward.
Mm. And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
To double my business, wow. That's what I'm thinking about now. I think maybe this idea may be just so crazy and fun that it'll go viral. But up till now, I've sort of not had, the skill or the insight on what can I tap into the masses that would make it go viral. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking this is the closest to it.
Mm-hmm. I think you'd get a bit of attention if you could do it.
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, the day I do it, look out, world.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I think that I'd like them to say that the people who've interacted with me, I was devoted to my clients. I delivered more than I could promise. I transformed lives and careers from instantly per session. That my forecasts of what the new world will be like came to pass. That maybe, again, this goes back to really boldly stating my views, that I was one of the people who helped find the cure for the disease of aging and the disease of gravity. Mm-hmm. But probably most of all, that I helped bring wisdom and work-life balance to be seen as something cool and necessary in entrepreneurial life. Mm-hmm. I think wisdom is probably the most important. I think that's the most valuable, more valuable than gold.
Mm. We are now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Swami, what is your favorite quote and how have you applied it?
Neil, my favorite quote is from Henry David Thoreau, the transcendentalist poet. He said, it's called the different drummer quote, basically known that way. And he says, if a man cannot keep pace with his companions, perhaps it's because he hears the beat of a different drummer. Let him step to that beat, however measured or far away. Mm-hmm. And that just spoke to me, that I was always out of step with everybody. And it's okay. That's how you be unique. That's how you'll bring something new to the world. We need a lot of solutions in this world, and if we just be like everybody else, we'll just be like one more person who doesn't have a solution.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any favorite online resources that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think, let's see, there are two practical ones. If you're trying to incorporate in some way, like an LLC or something, there's like bizfilings.com or any of those companies that will set you up very inexpensively. And LegalZoom, if you want to trademark or register your product or services. More to the entrepreneur, there's a number of websites that will do things that you can outsource, guru.com, etc. But the one that's, I find, for $5, they'll do anything for you, is Fiverr.com. And that's F-I-V for Victor, E-R-R. There's 2 R's in Fiverr. And Fiverr is like a $5 is a $5 bill. Mm-hmm. They'll do anything for $5. So I've had book covers made. I paid a little more because I asked for more things, but $40 for a book cover instead of $1,000 in my previous book covers. I've had cartoonists drawing cartoons for me, $5, $10 a cartoon. Yeah. Really good stuff. So Fiverr, to help you as a solopreneur or even an entrepreneur, it's a great resource. And one thing that every entrepreneur needs to do is be able to communicate and speak well. And so I would recommend joining Toastmasters. You can go to toastmasters.org and find a group near you for very little money a year. I mean, under $50 a year, usually. You can learn to speak in front of people and learn how to structure your talks, develop leadership skills, how to think on your feet and answer questions. Like if you just meet somebody on the street and you've got an opportunity to share your business idea, these talks help you get that up and running. So I'd say Fiverr and Toastmasters are really two key golden nuggets for entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you. And what is your best advice for other entrepreneurs?
The best advice is listen to your inner voice. The more unique you are, the more authentic you are, the more people are going to realize they need what you're offering. And that makes life a lot easier and more fun. Mm-hmm.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Swami's favourite resource or his favourite book, you can find the links on Swami's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Swami or Swami Tirtha in the search box. Swami, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Well, if folks are interested in what I do, I have online training courses in intuition for health, intuition for business, reinventing. I have a course reinventing if you're needing to reinvent yourself as an entrepreneur. And they're all online at my website, thehipguru.com. And I have books, I have meditation CDs, guided visualizations, and private one-on-one sessions for entrepreneurs. I guarantee your session, so you don't feel the change, you don't pay me.
Sounds good. Swami, it's been an honour having you on the show. You've certainly given us a different perspective on things and some great advice today. So thank you very much for coming on here.
Oh, thank you, Neil. I was really grateful that you invited me.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.